Well, we just had the Falken RT tires mounted and balanced, and we're heading down the highway now. Headed back home, and I've been out on the interstate and on these 55-mile-an-hour roads, and fortunately it's a really windy day today. The wind is gusting to about 40 miles an hour, so it's kind of making the truck drift around a little bit, but that's not the fault of the tires. The tires feel pretty good. And like I said, they balanced out nice. Now they also test fit these because when they saw that I was trying to put a 35 on a Ram 1500, they didn't think it was going to work, even though I knew that it would. So they test fit it, and they came back and said, yeah, it's going to be all right. So when we get to the house, I'll show you guys just how close it is. I mean, it is pretty tight. But a 35-inch tire will work on these Ram 1500s, these 5th gens. I guess it'll work on the 4th gen trucks also, but it definitely works on the 5th gens, especially if you got a 2-inch leveling kit like I do. That helps out a little bit, but I really think that even without a leveling kit, these tires may work out okay. Anyhow, when we get home, I'll show you what they look like so you can see it for yourself. Okay, so we made it back home now, and you can see that the tires actually work really nice on this truck. Now up here in the front, it's pretty close. In fact, it's just barely touching that rubber mud flap, but it's not even rubbing it enough to make a difference. So if you didn't have aftermarket mud flaps on there, you'd be totally fine back there. And up in the front, on the other side, you can see that when you turn in, there's no problem at all. Somebody was asking the question that you always ask about, you know, these hybrid terrain tires, and that is, what's the road noise like? And you know, there is some noise. Let's see if the camera can pick any of this up. So yeah, anytime you have an aggressive tire, you're gonna have some road noise, you know. I haven't found an aggressive tire yet that doesn't make some road noise, but these things are not what I would call loud. I mean, I've had some tires that are loud, and these are not really loud. They just have a low pitched hum to them going down the road. So the road noise so far is not bad at all. Now usually, as I always say, you know, you put several thousand miles on them and then you do a rotation on them. You know, with a 4-wheel drive, you're supposed to do a cross rotation. So after we cross rotate them a couple of times, they usually will pick up a little more noise. And if a tire's going to be loud, that's when you'll notice it starting to get kind of loud. So time will tell. You know, as we put these tires through their paces, we'll see where they end up. But so far, not bad at all. A wet, nasty morning out here with lots of standing water on the road. It's been storming all night long, but I gotta say, these tires are doing a great job. They feel pretty confident out here in the rain. No slipping and sliding like what I had with those Goodyear Duratracks. So far, so good. Something else that I really like about these tires is that, believe it or not, they don't really pick up a lot of gravel. You know, I drive gravel roads every day, and so that's kind of a concern for me. And these tires really are not bad about it. I've had tires that are far worse. I mean, they do occasionally pick up a stone and throw it, but they don't get loaded up with rocks like a lot of your tires in this segment would. So let's trial them out on the trail, see how they do on the trail. In order to get there, we got to go down the river a little ways, but let's see if we can find a little bit of trail to subject these tires to. You know, that's one place that the Goodyear Duratrack did not have any trouble, was off-road, so I expect these to do just as well, but there's one way to find out. just pulled right up that little hill. Traction control is definitely kicking in, so I'm gonna have to turn the traction control off and try to pull my way up this hill, I guess. But this is a really sloppy, nasty river mud. Let's see what we can turn off down here to help us out a little bit. Well, actually, I just realized it's already off, because when you go to low range, it automatically turns it off. So just give it a little bit more throttle and see what happens. Oh yeah. Well, so the tires are pulling pretty hard. Problem is we've had 3 inches of rain lately and this stuff is nasty. I have to be honest, I think they're doing a pretty good job in the mud. I actually got some mud on the truck. Yuck. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that mud right there has a lot of clay in it. It's a lot of nasty, slick river mud. It's the worst mud that you can possibly find. So to be able to just pull right up something like that, yeah, I mean, that's all you can ask for, right? So these tires are actually doing a really good job out here in the mud, and you can see that they do tend to pack up a little bit like any tire would, but if you spin these, if you give them a little bit more throttle and spin them, those features that I showed you in this tire, they do a good job of evacuating the mud. So, you know, after I went up it a couple of times and it got slicker and, you know, even more slippery, I was still able to back up and drive right up this nasty mud. I mean, this is a good litmus test. So if you're out on the trails like this, you know, and you find some water, you find some mud, you find some nasty conditions, you know, I feel like that these tires won't leave you stranded. If there's anything that I wish they would add to this tire, it is a rim protection flange around the tire to kind of lock the tire onto the bead and to protect the lips of your wheels. I'm really surprised that a brand new tire in this category doesn't have that. And the other thing that's interesting is if you look at their AT and their MT tires, they have a tread pattern, like a molded ring around here. That's a design that's supposed to be a proprietary thing they came up with to help cool the bead of the tire. I'm not really sure what their technical brand name is for it, but if you look at their tires right in this area, you'll see a really cool little tread design that's supposed to be functional. That's one of their trademarks, and you don't see that on this tire. For some reason, they did not include that on this new RT tire. Kind of strange. If you look closely at these tires, you'll see that something that Falken does, and some other companies do this too, some other tire manufacturers will also do this. You'll see a yellow dot right here. See that? And they put this on all of the tires. They just stamp a yellow dot on there. And what that signifies is that this is the point of the tire that's the lightest in weight. So it doesn't matter which brand it is or which tire it is, it's hard for them to make these things 100% perfect all the way around down to the microgram, right? I mean, you're gonna have some very small variances in weight as you go around the tire. So that yellow dot signifies where the tire is the lightest, that's the lightest spot in the tire. So the reason they stamp that on there is because the person who's installing the tire, if they know what they're doing, they're supposed to line that up with the heaviest part of the wheel. which is usually your valve stem, because in this area you've got your valve stem, you've got your TPMS sensor in there, you've got a little bit more material in that area of the wheel to support the valve stem. So this is just the heaviest spot of the wheel. So you match up the lightest spot of the tire with the heaviest spot of the wheel, and in theory that should allow you to use less weight when you're balancing the assembly. But something very interesting that I noticed is they put all of the weight right here at the valve stem. When they put these wheels and tires on the machine and spun them, the machine was calling for the weight to be put right here at the valve stem. And it's kind of that way on all of these. You know, if I go around here and look at the other side, you'll see that it's the same thing over here. There's your yellow dot. The tire installer knew to put that where the valve stem was, but then the machine said, hey, all the weight needs to be right here. I do believe that even the front ones were the same way. Yellow dot, valve stem, and there's your weight up in there. So that's very interesting. You would not normally expect that, but it almost seems as if something is off here. You know, this is maybe a really lightweight part of the tire. You know, so it could be that the manufacturing tolerances are just slightly off on this tire. But I will say this is a very early Falken RT tire. I mean, this is literally one of the first ones that came out of the mold. So, you know, I'm sure that over time they will continue to tweak and do a little bit more, you know, I don't want to say quality control, because there's not necessarily anything wrong with the tire, but it's just kind of strange to see that all the weight would end up being put right there. Yeah, so I have to admit, these tires are pretty nice. I mean, they're doing a great job so far. It's very early, don't have any mileage on them yet, so there's going to be some more reviews coming as I rack up miles on these, but just initial thoughts on them, they're doing really well. Now, after I put some more time out on the highway, I did notice that I have a little bit of a shake, just a little bit of an oscillation in the truck. I wouldn't really call it a vibration, but it does have a little bit of wobble. So I may take it back to the tire shop and have them put it on the road force balancing machine one more time, just to double check and make sure they got everything right. But below, say, 55 miles per hour, below that, they're smooth as silk on the road. It's really when I get to, you know, higher speeds on the interstate that it has a little bit of shimmy in it. But it is a 35-inch tire, and so, you know, the taller you go, the harder it is to get them balanced out perfectly. Overall, they're really great. Road noise isn't bad, rain traction is great, mud traction is great, as you just saw in that video. Considering we've had 3 inches of rain lately and everything was super sloppy down there, I would say these pull a little bit harder in the mud than the Goodyear Duratracs that I had. Duratracs do a great job off-road. I have no complaints with them, but I think these do pull just a little bit harder in the wet, sloppy conditions than even the Duratracs did. So far, so good with these Falken RTs. Overall, I think it's going to be a great all-around tire. It's going to be exactly what it's supposed to be, which is one of those tires that's pretty good at everything. Maybe it doesn't excel at any one category, but it's really good at every category, and that's the whole purpose of a tire like this. So stay tuned, you know, subscribe to the channel, and in the future when we do some mileage updates and reviews on this tire, you'll be able to see it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.